Good evening. I'm CR McLeod. I'm Director of Community Relations for DelDOT. Thank you so much for taking time to join us this evening. Hope you had a very nice 4th of July holiday and are staying cool during this intense heat wave. Appreciate you taking the time out to join us this evening as we provide an update on the status of the Woodland Ferry Captain's House and our plans for it going forward. We're joined this evening by several members of our DelDOT team. I'll introduce them briefly. First, we have Alistair Probert, who is our Sussex County District Engineer for DelDOT and has management responsibility for the ferry operations. We also have John Martin, who is our Cultural Resources Manager for the department. And we also have Brittany Cleakin, who is our Community Relations Officer for Sussex County. And then we're also joined by Matt Gowdy, who is our RK&K project engineer, who is helping us with this project for the reimagining of the new Captain's House here at the Woodland Ferry. We're also joined by Representative Short. And Representative, if you would like to take a moment and say hello, please do.
We appreciate the opportunity and happy that we're having this public workshop, although I certainly would like to have had more participation than we are getting, but that's a whole nother story. And it's July and it's hot outside. So just briefly, I thought I'd make a comment with regard to the overall aspects of the Woodland area for my colleagues as well as some of the participants. I view this workshop tonight as just a part of the whole concept out to Woodland. Years ago, working with DenRec, we were able to acquire some property through the bond bill, and we have now a fishing pier and a ramp to launch canoes and kayaks. The things I think a lot of folks misconstrue is the downtime of the ferry right now is an integral part of a 5-year plan that requires that it have maintenance, and that's not an insignificant thing when you have a boat this size. Knowing myself as a boater on the Nanticoke and up and down into the Chesapeake Bay, this is a requirement through the Coast Guard. And happy that's continued and certainly not an inexpensive operation to handle. The other thing that we're working on, and kudos to my buddy Alistair and to the HR folks, the enhancement for a captain's position. I really do hope with the help of a lot of folks that we will be able to advertise and hopefully get some more captains to allow that ferry to run more often and into the weekends for the future. The other thing I'd like to bring everybody up to date on, which is new news, across the Nanticoke, part of this puzzle is a place called the Nanticoke Crossings, which is a property owned on the southwest side, now in the hands of the conservator of the Sussex Land Trust. To help them along, we have a little line item in the bond bill this year for $60,000 to allow them to continue their engineering and their permitting to establish the canoe and kayak launch on the other side and the pier aspects on that. So we're pushing that project along to enhance the whole area of the Woodland Ferry. And lastly, what we're going to talk about tonight, the enhancements of the Captain's House. I've been in the house over the years, and I think this will provide a true enhancement for the people that work on that ferry. Probably one of the few folks that ride the ferry just regularly just to say hi, and during deer season, drop off a little bit of deer jerky for my captains and mates out there, just to let them know we care for them and think they're doing a great job and say hello. So hope there's no declaration that has to be done for that, but in the sense of me delivering that meat, it's not allowed to be sold, but you can gift it away. And I think it really just lets everybody know we appreciate what they're doing. So thank you to you guys at DelDOT for putting this on today, and thank you for all you do. And I think we really need to allow our colleagues up and down the state know that the state is committed to this ferry as a part of the DelDOT system, and it's a pretty unique thing, i.e. the brew bike. I'm hard to say this, beer and biking at the same time that occurs in the year. And Alice has been able to allow those bikes. And it's an interesting thing that people from out of the state and around the area come and say, gee whiz, there's a ferry you get to go across and you don't charge anything. And so just to say thank you. That's why I'm here tonight and to participate in the workshop. So appreciate everybody. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Representative Short, for your collaboration and your support and your advocacy for not just the ferry, but for all of our Del team. We really appreciate it, and we'll be for those that may be watching this at a later period of time. You are able to comment. There is a 30-day comment period, so if you're not able to join us while this is recording live and you're watching this later, up until August 9th, we'll be keeping the comment period open. You can actually go into the chat box here, and there is a link to the comment form. If you follow that link, it'll actually create a document for you. If you would just like to leave some comments in that about the presentation and your thoughts about the project, and then you can then email that to dotpublic@delaware.gov. So we welcome that feedback as we prepare to move forward with this project. So with that, we'll move ahead into the presentation part of the evening. And just to give everyone a sense of what we're going to be covering, we've obviously just spent a couple of minutes introducing the project. We'll talk about the history of the ferry in the house, as well as the purpose and the need for this project. This project has been discussed for more going on probably a couple of years now, and this is a chance for us to talk about what role this house serves and really what it's lacking and what we're hoping to achieve by having a new structure here at this property. So those are some of the major items we'll cover. We've got a rough project timeline. Obviously, those things can change, but just wanted to give a ballpark at this time of how we foresee this project moving forward. The good news is that we already have money dedicated to this project, so that's usually a critical factor. And thankfully, we have funds set aside for this work. And then lastly, we'll welcome any comments that you may have before we wrap up and let everyone get on with their evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team here, and we'll jump right in. John?
All right, thank you, CR. I won't go through a detailed history, but James Cannon first purchased property along the Nanticoke in 1734 and began the operation of a ferry shortly thereafter. He was a miller by trade. The ferry has been operating at pretty much this location ever since, and it was under Cannon descendants until probably about 1880. In 1883, the General Assembly authorized the Sussex County and Levy Court to establish and maintain a ferry at this location, which kind of suggests that the ferry had stopped operating by then. And so the county operated it until 1935, when the State Highway Department, now DelDOT, took over ownership of it and the operation, which carries through today. Interestingly enough, it still operates by cable, towing the ferry back and forth across the Nanticoke. It was originally a chain and was operated manually. The ferry captain would actually pull it back and forth. And in 1930, a car engine, I think it was like a Model T engine, was added to the side of the ferry to provide some mechanical assistance in towing the ferry back and forth. The ferry itself has been listed on the National Register. Now, not the ferry boat, but the ferry corridor, because it has been operating for so long here. It was recognized as being of national significance and listed on the National Register along with Cannon Hall, that was built in the early 1800s by descendants of James Cannon. And the ferry itself was for a long time known as the Cannon Ferry. It's more commonly known as the Woodland Ferry. And so that's part of the district. The house where operators have lived and operated out of, and it's now the office and quarters for the ferry captains. dates to about the 1920s. And it unfortunately has had some rough time. The roof and rafters have been replaced, and the windows have been replaced. So it still provides the character that has long been here, and that's something that we just need to keep in mind with the new structure.
All right, CR, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank
All
you,
right.
Alistair.
So the purpose of the project is to improve the ability of the state to recruit and retain qualified and specialized employees that meet the current U.S. Coast Guard licensure requirements. And the key phrase there is we want to retain whoever we bring in. It's hard enough to find staff, but once we get them on board and trained up, we really want to retain them. We're down to one ferry captain now, so we're trying everything we can to improve our odds at getting more people to come apply to work for us, train them up, and keep them on.
And Alistair, can you just take a moment just to discuss, how we've gotten to the point where we've only had one captain at this time?
Yeah, so we've gotten to the point where we're at now with only one captain. We have 3 positions that are fully funded. The previous 2 have retired or resigned due to they had issues on their own. But basically, they've moved on to other things. And so we've posted the job multiple times, and unfortunately, it hasn't been a match with the people that have applied that we've selected. They didn't want to work for us at the ferry or whatever, for whatever reason. They have their own personal reasons. But so currently, what we're also doing, and I can mention that now, is as Representative Short mentioned, we are looking to reclass positions. It's going through the process with HR, with the end goal being to create a unique position just for the Woodland Ferry that will have a higher compensation package so that we can attract and retain these future ferry boat captains. We want to improve the reliability of the Woodland Ferry for the traveling public. Over the past couple of years, the uptime on the ferry has improved significantly. We want to maintain that upward trend. As part of that is I want to also enable future vessel propulsion upgrades. My goal there is to eventually electrify the ferry, and we're working with a consulting firm right now on some very initial scoping it out, that kind of process on it. But that's our goal, is to possibly electrify the ferry, which would reduce the need for the Thursday shutdowns that we do for oil changes and fueling it up and stuff like that. Under the need, we have to do this work to enable critical IT upgrades for the video security system in our building. We use the cameras at the building and on the boat to increase the overall safety of our employees and the traveling public, and also obviously to protect our property. The new building would ensure ferry personnel have a safe and secure work environment and promote increased availability of the ferry as a vital transportation mode, as Representative Short alluded to with I can't remember the term either. It's bike to brew or brew to bike or something like that, but it's one of those two. We also use the ferry to store a lot of critical parts, tools, and equipment that we need solely for the ferry. And the goal there is to maintain them in a climate controlled environment. That way, when I send mechanics from Georgetown or other maintenance yards, they have everything they need to work on the ferry right at the ferry itself, versus sending somebody there and realizing we're missing a certain tool, and then we have to dispatch people from elsewhere. The last part of the need is to enable the personnel to have adequately sized areas with suitable amenities for daily functions and to work extended shifts. So when the ferry is fully staffed, we work about it's almost a 12-hour day, 7 days a week. So these employees spend a lot of time in the building. So we'd like to have a building that's suitable for that sort of long-term duration. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the next slide. And
so this is me again. So we have a lack of adequate, modern, and compliant facilities for staff. So one of our requirements is we need the facility to be compliant, so that whomever shows up to go work on the ferry or on the ferry house itself, they are entering into a facility that's ADA compliant. So Typically people look at it like, well, the captain is the only person involved, but that's, unfortunately, there's a lot more support staff that's involved. We could have IT staff from elsewhere that has to come down and work on the security system or the computer. I could have mechanics that have different needs. So the facility needs to be fully compliant. We already talked about the lack of part storage. By having, storing parts on site, it will save us a lot of time and money as far as moving things around. The building itself has started to show increased wear and tear, and that's just from it being an aging structure. We've dealt with termite damage in the past. We've replaced some of those damaged areas. But like anything with termites, you really don't know what else they got into until you see another failure. We also don't know the condition of the wiring or the plumbing. Some of it has been updated, but there's definitely a lot of it still behind walls, flooring, ceilings that has not been touched. So there's a lot of very old infrastructure within the building itself. Our HVAC system has also had an extensive amount of work done on it. That's just the nature of the building where it's at. There's a lot of moisture in the air, so it's hard on the equipment. And we've had continued plumbing leaks within the building. Your typical stuff that you would see in a house: water heaters leaking, old pipe connections leaking, stuff like that. So there's a lot of hidden water damage in there, and we don't have any reason to expect that the frequency to decrease with time. If anything, it'll get worse. Okay.
Okay.
This slide has 6 pictures showing the existing interior of the Ferry house. You can see the bathroom area, and there's a cot off to the side in the bathroom. And that's typically if we have a storm response and our employees are on a sleep break, then that's where they would rest. And so unfortunately, the employees in this facility end up taking a sleep break in the bathroom, which that's not exactly the greatest thing ever. And the other shots show the kitchen, basically the kitchen and the office area. And there is storage that's not shown in those images right now that's in the attic, and it's your typical pull down attic stair arrangement. And it's hard to access, and it's also quite tight up at the top in the attic as well. And it's not climate controlled. So thank you.
Okay, so Matt, would you like to take a moment to walk us through the proposed replacement building?
I'd like to introduce our architectural lead on this, Studio Jade. So they're going to go through, they've been doing most of the design for the building and the structure. So I'm going to let them talk about the proposed structure that you see on the screen. So Amanda Bauer is from Studio Jade, and she's going to go through that with us.
Great. And Amanda, you should be able to unmute.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Yara. The new proposed Woodland Ferry house was designed to maintain the historical nature of the district. The design will provide increased storage for ferry equipment and supplies, as discussed by Alistair, and improve facilities for ferry employees while maintaining a similar facade of the existing structure. New wiring, plumbing, mechanical equipment will be installed on site. The interior and exterior of the building will be fully accessible and inclusive per the Accessibility Disability Act. We will provide ramps to the front door from the parking area and an enlarged interior footprint for easier navigation and functionality. And the new building will meet all current building codes and local regulations and ordinances. And
Great.
hopefully to reduce future maintenance costs.
Sure. And can you take a moment just to give us a flavor of how the exterior design and coloring was chosen?
We wanted to keep match part of the existing structure. Brick, like a brick porch, and then keeping with the green shutters and I think the brown accents on the building. And we tried to keep within the footprint of the existing buildings, but obviously expanding it because we are going from a 465 square foot building to about 1,000 square feet, including a 244 square foot equipment and cable storage. So it's reduced, but within similar footprint.
And just for our guests, this is a current rendering. Final design has not been approved yet, but wanted to have something to share this evening for what we're imagining this new structure to look like. So that's obviously something we're looking for comment on. Alistair, in that lower picture, can you just give some insight into what the rear of the structure will provide?
Okay, that's what Amanda touched upon. So basically, it's
Sure.
the garage door. You need an oversized, well, not truly an oversized door, but you need a decent sized door to store the cable spool in there. And that's the cable spool that we use to secure the ferry while it's running back and forth. It's worth a lot of money, so we want to keep that in a secure environment as well.
Understood. Okay.
All right, so I think this one is mine as well. So obviously the workshop is happening right now. As CR mentioned, there's a 30-day comment period. We're hoping to have the project design completed the fall of this year. The plan would be to advertise shortly thereafter and begin construction in spring of 2025 and complete construction in late 2025. A couple things I should have added before is this project, and CR hit on it. It's already funded. It's got dedicated federal funding that's associated with the ferry that can only be spent on the ferry or site improvements at the ferry. So it's not something that we could take away the money and just go pave a mile of road somewhere else in the state. So it has to be used on the ferry, and that's our intent, is to put it all towards this project. And I've had some questions in the past as far as once construction begins, how is that going to be handled? Our ultimate goal is to have, one contractor, if possible, that would be involved with the entire process, right? The demolition, the supplying of a temporary structure for the captains to work out of while they're on the site, and then the construction of the new building. So ideally, we would have one contractor do all of that because it's easier for us to manage on our side at DelDOT. That's our goal, and hopefully we can make it work that way. So that's all I have.
Great. Okay, so that concludes our presentation. And again, for those joining us and watching this at a later date, you can fill out a comment form and email that to our project team, and we'll accept those comments through August 7th. So we look forward to those comments. And for those that are joining us now, we're glad to answer any questions if you have them. If you'd like to offer any comment or questions, we're glad to answer them. And I am unmuting our guests, so if feel free to make a comment.
Okay, can I speak?
Yes, sir. Please do.
This is Roger Hamrick, Woodland Ferry. When we had our last meeting last year, we talked to the gentleman that had concerns about the ferry, his family being running the ferry out of that building for a long time, and we said something about we would come talk about the cost of rebuilding the building or refurbishing the building versus a new building. Do we remember something like that? That's my question to you guys. Is we talked to him, he talked to us and he was concerned that we were, he was losing some part of his heritage, I guess. And I don't know if he's
Yeah, I do remember that conversation, Roger. We didn't run any actual numbers on it. We did an initial feasibility um, look at it, I guess you could call it, where in order to make it ADA compliant, so much of the structure would have to be changed that at that point in time, there'd be nothing original with the structure. And that wouldn't address all of the issues with the potential rot, the old wiring, the plumbing issues, some of the HVAC issues. And then the other concern is, there's only so much we can do before we impact the septic field. And at that point in time, if we hit that septic field, there's a good chance that it turns into a mound system or something like that in the backyard, which would significantly change the character of the entire project. Um, it's just, I can't remember the number that Amanda said, but I believe we're going up, twice in size in order to be ADA compliant and to accomplish the goals of having the storage in the building, the IT area for the cameras to secure our property and all that. So I think it was just impossible to do it and still maintain the same footprint of the existing building.
Okay, I just wanted to throw that out there because I didn't want to. Well, I don't know if he's on the line with us today, but I know that was one of the questions we had, or he had.
Understood. I mean, I think it's typical, right? When you do residential construction, at some point in time, you cross that threshold where it's exponentially more expensive to renovate as compared to new build. And this one here, due to the need to make it ADA compliant, it's not just a matter of redoing some flooring and some walls and maybe moving one wall out. It's everything needs to be touched. So.
It's more about a history, a family history thing. How old the Ferry house is, how old the Ferry is, how old Cannon Hall is. We know we went around and around about the Cannon Hall, and then it does have historic significance. It's not the same, but it still has historic significance to the community. So, and I think that's important to at least cover your bases on.
Yeah, understood. And I think at one point in time we discussed, and none of that's been decided yet, as far as if another entity wanted to take over the ownership and maintenance of the Ferry house, that DelDOT would figure out a way of potentially making that happen. So if somebody else wanted to, I mean, it's a significant burden maintaining an old structure. So whichever entity wanted to do that, theoretically, they would need to be well funded in order to pull that off. But that was one of the other options that we had sort of discussed tentatively, that maybe that is a path forward as well. I mean, house movers can move just about anything there is out there. But, so you go move a structure that potentially has elements from the 20s or the 30s, as John Martin mentioned, and you have to stay on top of that and maintain it proactively all the time. It would be kind of horrible to move a structure and just have it, fall in on itself on another property somewhere.
And one
I
other
just
thing.
wanted to remind you with that. So.
Oh, no, my apologies. I was just going to mention as well, there is a historical marker currently there on the property that would obviously be preserved and located in a similar spot. There may also be an opportunity, and John would certainly be able to help us with and the Woodland Ferry Association. Do we have another maybe it's not a plaque, but another type of informational panels that guests could read about, not just the original Captain House, but some more information about the ferry itself. That's something we could certainly explore to expand the just the historical information available at the site.
Right. Like since the state of Delaware has owned the ferry or has operated the ferry, would they actually keep a list of all the captains that have been been through that area. You know, something like that, like part of a plaque or a dedication, something like that. I'll remember it. So to speak.
Yeah, I mean, Roger, I can certainly look into that. I mean, that's a lot of institutional knowledge that's walked out of the door, right? I can probably go back to the 70s without too much effort. And at that point in time, I'm sure we would miss some guys or some of the operators, but I know enough of the people that have recently retired that could easily give me names of some of their predecessors. So yeah, I think we could look into try what it would take to get that. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe the person that you know would actually be a better source of that information.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I know the gentleman that was there that asked those questions. He was part of the church,
Okay.
the Woodland church, and he was there at the last meeting we had at the church itself. And those are the questions that he asked her. So I don't know. I'd have to do some inquiries to your friends from the church and then see if he's still available. But I wouldn't. You know, we'll have to look at and see. You know, if you could get that information, that might be important down the road. So, I mean, I like what we're seeing here, and you know, and I know the condition of the Ferry House because I've been in there, and I know something has to be done. And like I've always said, you know, that the first questions I get or the first worries I get are the trailer there forever type of thing. And you know, that's what we don't want. So we want, once the project starts, we want the project to finish. So, you know, that would be the most important thing. And I know is your intention is to finish the project. I know that. So I just, as a president, I get all kinds of questions like that, and I have to be ready for them. So that was one of my concerns.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, like ideally we're gonna do it as a turnkey operation, right? Where the same contractor, Acme Construction or whatever, bids it and they do everything start to finish. Sometimes that doesn't happen like that, but you know, the funding is dedicated and the department is committed. We're not gonna level something and not put a structure back in its place and have a construction trailer out there for years or anything like that. So that's not even remotely close to the intent.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your comments, Roger. I believe
you.
Senator Richardson also joined. Senator, did you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry that I'm late. Had a little bit of technical problem, but I'm glad to be here now. Enjoying the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we had Roger. Any other comments from our guests this evening? Okay, well, if there aren't any, we'll let everyone move along with their evening. Again, this session was recorded. We'll be posting a link to this on the website, and again, there will be a 30-day comment period. So, Roger and to our other guests, if you wouldn't mind sharing out this information as well, and hopefully others will be able to take some time and review this presentation and provide their comments. We'll look forward to that and keeping everyone updated as this project moves forward. So with that, thank you again for your time this evening. Stay cool, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Good night.